What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is your review for Black Cake Season 1, Episode 7. So we are almost done. There's one more episode, which will be dropping tomorrow. And like I said, as promised, we will do a live. Maybe I'll do a live review of the final episode where we can talk about the whole, the final episode, and then everything is in its entirety, and what was different from the novel versus the miniseries. And I have been keeping notes, so I have, like, as things happen, I've been writing it down. Like, oh, that's different. That's different. Some are big differences, some are minor differences, and some differences I may not catch at all. But ultimately, I still feel like they're doing a really good job. They, like I said, they've changed some things up that I've kind of been like, but I still ultimately feel like it's a good job. So we pick up with Covey, her final audio. And she has her three daughters, her three children there together. Her oldest daughter came back, and of course we have Benny and Byron, B and B. And Covey is back in London. There was a time period of about a year between when Covey went back to London and when she found Gibbs. So now we're finding out what happened in that year, which of course is when she had the baby. So she gets back to London, and again she can't go back to the boarding house, because of course the boarding house is full of people that think she's dead, so she can't go back there. And so she looks like she ends up staying, and she said, I went to a part of the city where nobody really asked me any questions, but I could also sort of blend in. Remember, half of her is Asian, so she looks like she's staying in the part of London where a lot of Asian immigrants are. So that's where she's staying, in like a rooming house. Now, she said she hadn't been able to find work, so I don't know what she was doing to keep herself from being homeless all the way, but it looked like she was 2 steps from homeless, to be honest with you. She's not feeling well, so she goes to the doctor. Baby, she found out she's pregnant, okay? The doctor says to her, he asked her what happened, and she told him what happened. She said, when I was in Scotland, my boss, he took advantage of me. Now, I don't know if the doctor thought it was an actual sexual assault or just, she was naive and he talked to her and she believed what he had to say, kind of thing. Neither here nor there. He's like, listen, do you know what you're going to do? He said, well, luckily, you have options these days, and he's talking about having the pregnancy terminated. So we see Covey go back home. She is totally distraught. She has no idea what she's going to do. She's damn near homeless. She's carrying a baby of a man that assaulted her, who she never wants to see again, talk to again. She's in a place where she technically ain't even supposed to be alive, and she really is just all alone. So she finds her way into a church, and as she's praying, the nun comes up to her, and the nun starts talking to her, and she ends up confiding. She said, you're the first person that's been nice to me, and I don't know how long, And of course, the nun talks to her, and she ends up confiding in the nun. She said, I'm with child, and, I'm stuck. Like, I don't know what to do. So the nun says, well, baby, listen, I can help you. Now, to be clear, they were upfront with Covey about you going to give your baby up, right? They have her sign the paperwork, so she knew what it was. So let me put a pin in that. We get a flashback to her wedding again, and we once again see her getting ready for her wedding, and we see, I forget her name, but we see the woman that was her mother's best friend, Pearl. We see Pearl coming to talk to her and basically saying, I wanted to, basically saying, I want to be there for you. I want to, I'm your mother, I was your mother's friend, and I was always here to protect you. And Covey basically said, listen, I relied on you and my father to protect me, and y'all both failed. And at this point, ain't nothing y'all can do about it. Like, I don't really want nothing from you. I don't want to talk to him. Unless y'all telling me that y'all got a plan to get me out of marrying this old man, I don't really want to hear nothing from y'all. So she tries to give Covey a necklace that belonged to her mom. And Covey was like, yeah, I don't want nothing from her either, because she abandoned me. How could she leave me? How could she abandon me? And Pearl said, listen, your mother's plan was to come back. She absolutely was going to come back. So we see a scene with Pearl and her mom getting ready to leave, and she said, "I'm going to send for Covey as soon as I get to America." We see Pearl give her, some money to help her out, and so we see that there was a plan for her to get Covey, right? But of course, at this point, Covey don't care about none of that. In her mind, my mama left me. She abandoned me, left me with this drunk who got me in this situation where now I got married this old man, or we all gonna die. But does that sum it up? So we see Covey go to the convent, and they work the girls. I mean, they basically said, "Look, there's no fee to stay here, but you're gonna work." So they're doing laundry and they're doing house chores and they're cooking and all of that. And she said they worked them hard, right? So there's a little white girl there, and she's telling a story about how her boyfriend's coming to get her. She said, "Look, my parents sent me here. They done told their friends that I'm studying abroad, but they're embarrassed. But that's okay. They don't know that me and he's coming to get us, and we are getting out of here, and we're gonna go live happily ever after." And Covey was like, "Okay, girl." She said, "What about the father of your baby?" She said, "Oh, I don't want to have nothing to do with him." And she was like, "Well, that's, most of us here, but I'm different. But most of the girls here, that's what their situation is, but don't worry." And she was really nice, really perky, really nice. I was a little leery of her at first. I was like, but she was very nice. So, we see them progress through the pregnancy, right? So the little white girl has the baby first. But what she finds out right before she's getting ready to have the baby is boyfriend, surprise, surprise, he didn't change his mind. He said he ain't ready to be a daddy and he ain't coming to get her. And so her heart is broken right before she goes into labor. And the sad thing is, these girls, because it's like a home for unwed girls. And Covey was one of the few black girls there. And come to find out, and they asked her if the daddy was white. She was like, "Oh, good, because we'll be able to place the baby easier if the baby, half white and can pass," kind of thing. But what's interesting to me is these girls didn't know nothing. I mean, when the girl went into labor, they didn't know what was going on with the girl. Nobody had talked to them about what that's, your water breaking and what's going to happen when you go into labor. Like, none of that, right? So they were like really upset when the girl went into labor, like, what is going on? They were panicking and stuff. And the nuns came in there and said, "Child, she just going into labor. She all right." Well, Covey actually fell, and she got put on bed rest. So she was kind of on bed rest. And when little white girl came back from having her baby, she was depressed. She was depressed because she didn't want the baby anymore. She was detached from the baby. The boyfriend done left her, and she was kind of stuck with doing what her parents wanted her to do, which was put the baby up for adoption, come back home and live life happily ever after, kind of thing. She wouldn't breastfeed the baby. She was having trouble with the baby latching and all of those things that happened. But ultimately the girl left, and she gave the baby up, and she went home, and to go back to, and she told Covey, "Listen, I ain't trying to, like, I wasn't built for this. Like, I thought me and the boyfriend was going to get married and live happily ever after. I ain't trying to be nobody's single mama. I'm going to just have to do what I got to do. The baby don't even like me, but the baby can pick up on the fact that she wasn't really feeling it." So Covey had been trying to stay distant, for the same reason. She didn't want to get attached to the baby. She didn't want to become connected to the baby because she was like, "I'm not keeping the baby, and this baby is a product of an assault," and all the things that we know. But as the months went on and the baby started growing, she became more attached and more concerned, and all that stuff. So she goes into labor, and she actually ends up having the baby. And of course, she changed her mind. She wants to keep her baby. And she told them, "Listen, I'm sorry, I changed my mind. I want to keep the baby." And they were like, "Girl, that's not how this works. Like, we were clear in the beginning. We told you what the situation was, and you gonna give us that baby. Like, that's what it is. You signed paperwork." And so Covey tried to run away with the baby child. The nun then stopped. It was one little black nun, the lady that first talked to her in the church. And she was real cool with. I mean, I should say I love how she handled it, but like she was like, "So you leaving?" Covey said, "Yeah, I changed my mind. I want to have my baby. I want to keep my baby." She said, "And where you going with 2 diapers?" Because Covey just picked up a couple. She said, "Where you going with 2 diapers and a blanket?" Like she said, "Listen, go back to your room, go to bed, and we'll talk about this in the morning." And of course, Covey wasn't stupid, but she knew she wasn't in it. Like, what was she gonna do? Run past the lady? So the next morning, they let Covey sleep. They didn't wake her up to feed or nothing. So by the time she woke up, she was like, "Wait a minute, what y'all let me sleep for?" And the nurses was like, "Oh, did we forget to wake you up?" Baby gone. The couple is already there to take that baby home, baby. Covey ran after that baby, and she tried to get her baby back, but of course, nothing. And they show Covey walking around London for the next couple of months. She said every baby she looked at, she was looking for her baby. Every baby she saw, she was looking. And the baby had a birthmark, so she was looking for that birthmark. And then we see the day that she saw Gibbs and almost got hit by that bus as she saw Gibbs, right? So it brought the whole thing full circle. So she said to her, so we get back to LA present day, and she's talking to her kids, and she tells her oldest daughter, she said, "Listen, because she named the baby Matilda. So she said, you were loved. I don't want you to think that you weren't loved. You were loved. I wanted to, I had changed my mind. Like I had started off ready to give you away. You reminded me of all of the horrible things that was going on, but you were absolutely loved." So of course that helped bring a full circle, and I think that helped her daughter Matilda feel better. It's still a lot to process, it was still a lot for her to process. So then she says, at the end of her tape, she said, "Listen, I know y'all have a lot of questions, and there are a lot of things." She said, "This is my last recording. I ain't got nothing else for y'all." She said, "But I know that there are a lot of questions that still have not been answered, and some of those questions I can't answer. If you want to know what happened the night of my wedding, there's one person out there that can tell you what happened." And so they flash back to the wedding, and who do we see? Bunny. Which I was wondering when they were going to bring Bunny back around, but neither here nor there. We'll talk about it when we go live. So they bring Bunny back around. We see Bunny the night of the wedding. Then we see Pearl fixing the cake, and we see her mixing up a concoction in the bowl, and we see Bunny running around looking nervous. So in this next episode is the final episode, and it ties everything up. And that's how the book is written. Again, I'll tell you guys, there's some things that I'll wait and see what happens in episode 8. But at the end of the book, it basically, and it even says it, like the end of the book, it says, the final chapter says, all your questions answered. And it goes character by character. Everything that wasn't clear, that they didn't go through, they go through and they explain. So I'm gonna wait and see how they wrap up this last episode. And like I said, episode 8 will be a live review, and then we'll recap the whole thing, and we'll also talk about like I said, the differences, things that happened in the book that didn't happen in the movie, or vice versa. Okay, all right, you guys, I will talk to y'all later. Peace.